Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. We're back with some college basketball for Saturday, February 17th. Almost 150 games. Many of them will be terrible, but some of them you can make money on. And we're going to try to cover 4 of the top 10, according to Sideline, games that we have picks that we really like for various reasons. We didn't do a Friday show. We couldn't find things we like to talk about. And so we're going to make it up to you, viewer, by giving you a 4th free pick. Thankfully, it was easy on Saturday because we had a lot to choose from. Jake, I know you're excited for this Saturday.
Oh, I mean, Saturday, I love when I can just sit on my couch and just watch basketball back to back to back, and it be good game after good game. This Saturday is a little weaker than most, but it's all right. We're coming down to the end of the season where you're going to start getting important. When some of these weaker games become more important.
Yeah, absolutely. You're starting to get a little bit of a clearer picture of what has implications and whatnot, which is always fun. So we've got these 4 we're going to talk about and get on Dub Club. We have 2 side plays of the day, 2 total plays of the day, and in our extended cut, we'll cover all 4 of those games along with anything else that we feel like talking about. There's 4 other A grades as well for this Saturday already. Plus, again, whatever we feel like talking about in the City Cut, where we get to just talk about sports and college basketball, maybe hockey, I don't know, college baseball, who knows what we'll talk about in the after show. We're just winging it here on that one. But where we aren't is where we've got slides and structure, which is going to start us off with Wake Forest and Virginia. Jake, Virginia it's like back to peak Virginia. I feel like there was like this weird stretch where they were like solid offensively. But I mean, they are just back to really good, suffocating defense, insanely slow pace. And that creates a recipe where you never really know what's going to happen. And honestly, I think it makes sense for them. I think it's a good move. I think when they had that offensive talent, the fact that they continue to play so slow was a little bit weird to me because they were really good. And when you're really good, you want to have more possessions of the game. This Virginia team's not as good. They're not bad. But I think the fact that they're playing this slow style or whatever and this really good defense, I think it's working for them. I think if they had more possessions, I'm not sure it would help them out because their offense can get a little stagnant. So when you minimize the possessions of the game, you kind of hide that weakness of the offense, let the defense shine through. But honestly, my take on Virginia, because of that and because of just what I've observed for them in the last month, I have no idea what I'm getting from them on any given day. They might win by 12. They might lose by 15. I have no idea what's going to happen with them. Wake Forest is a good team. This is the only, at least as of now, WTF wrong team favored B grade of the day. I'm guessing we'll have another 1 or 2 in the morning. There's a handful of C plus grades that are right there on that cusp. But only B grade right now that I think I found of this variety. Model says Wake Forest should be favored. I'm not sure if they should. To me, this is simply about I have no idea what's going to happen. Give me plus 132 on the money line. Don't even care which side. If I can get Virginia plus 132, great. We're getting Wake Forest 132 plus 132, great. Doesn't really matter to me. This is a complete coin toss in my mind. Jake, what's your opinion?
Yeah, it's very much a coin toss type game, especially at Virginia with the way Virginia's playing. I mean, Virginia got drilled by Wake at Wake Forest, and that started this run where Virginia just handled everybody up until this Tuesday, right before Valentine's, where they got beat by Pittsburgh. Won several tough games in there, but I think this style-wise is a terrible matchup for Virginia. I think you've got Wake Forest, who has some really good guards. Who I would take their guards over Virginia's guards, and it's rare that you can say that about a Tony Bennett team. But Wake Forest has got it going. They can really shoot the 3 ball, and that's what they did to Virginia the first time. Is they hit 10 threes and hit almost 50% from beyond the arc because Virginia's defense is based on making you take longer, tough shots, just playing the averages and not giving you anything easy. Well, if those are going in, then Virginia's beat, and that's just kind of how Tony Bennett works. And I don't think that's a great strategy against Wake Forest here. And with this being such a tight game, the free throw line matters a lot. And since we're playing the money line, Virginia is bad for the free throw line, 65, 66%. And Wake Forest is the opposite. They're almost 80%. They look like Villanova out there. So I think a lot of these little key factors to win this game lean Wake Forest. That's why I love taking with the plus odds here.
No, great points there. I'll just wrap up and just mention the chaos with Virginia. Wrapping up the 2023 calendar year, they lost to Notre Dame by 22. They lost to NC State at the start of the year by 16. They lost by Wake, as you mentioned, by 19. In the middle of all that, they've had some great wins. They've had a couple of wins. They beat Notre Dame again in the rematch, but Notre Dame's not very good, obviously. And then they lost at home to Pitt. They were favored by a touchdown. Um, you should know what you're going to get from them. They've had some really good wins, and they've had some really questionable showings. That game against Miami, where they had less than 40 points, was incredible. Um, might have been a little bit said about Miami too. I know Miami took a pretty big hit in sidelines ratings after that game. But yeah, a lot can happen here and go any direction. And like I said, it's all about the plus 132 here. And what's a coin toss game? Wake Forest on the road. Road wins are easy to come by, but if they're hitting some threes, this will be a nice winner for us. And so, love the value there. And again, we always remind you to shop around for the best price, especially in your money line markets and your spread market. Sometimes the best you can do is kind of get a minus one, which is good. For sure, you want to get a minus 105 instead of a minus 110. You can either put a little bit more on it. You lose a little bit less when you lose because you're going to have losses. That's the way it goes. But in the money line market specifically, and this is one of them, shopping around, have a few extra books in your back pocket in order to get the best prices. It's not going to guarantee you profiting, but it's going to help you lose less when you lose and win more when you win. And that can make the difference between turning you from a break even better to a winning better, from a losing better to a break even better. That little bit extra is always helpful. One of the places you can do that, BetUS. We appreciate their sponsorship. You can sign up with the link in the show description, get 125% bonus on your first deposit, a bunch of free bets given to you as well. That bonus does come with rollover requirements. We do recommend getting your money in there sooner. With all these college basketball games, you can run through that rollover requirement in a much quicker time frame here in the next month with all the college basketball games. But you cannot take the bonus and then get your money right back out. But if you are thinking about it like we're always preaching, which is put your money in a handful of books, shop around, have a little bit of action, a lot of different places. It won't be any big deal. And then eventually come baseball season, you'll have a nice little, have already played through all of it and a bunch of money in your bank account there. So BetUS is a good book to add to your repertoire. If you haven't already, check them out.
BetUS, America's favorite sports book, where you can bet on everything anytime. Sportsbook, live betting, and casino. To celebrate 30 years in business, we have the best bonuses in the industry. Get a 125% sign-up bonus and up to 30 risk-free bets. So what are you waiting for? Join now. BetUS, where the game begins.
Got two noon games for you here. The other one is Texas A&M and Alabama. A&M started off looking like a very strong team, had some injury issues, looked a little bit better, getting a little healthier, but maybe not quite as strong as maybe their fan base would have hoped at the start of the season. Not a bad team, but on the road, Alabama, bottom line on this game is we just think they're going to be really overmatched. The A&M offense, the A&M defense, and the Alabama defense are all very solid units. They're all very respectable. Of course, the difference in this game is going to be Alabama's offense at home should be able to score a bunch of points. We're going to lay the 8 with Alabama. B grade pick for us. Model thinks they win by about 11 points. Jake, what do you have for us on this game?
Look, Bama is that team at home. The offense gets going, that crowd gets into it. It is very tough to get in front of. And A&M's got a decent defense, but they're not good enough, and their offense does them no favors. I mean, they beat Missouri. They put up 79 on Missouri, and they shot lights out against Tennessee. But past that, their offense really doesn't do much for them. And they really don't want to play the up and down game with Bama, because Bama is a much better shooting team than Tennessee, especially from deep. And they're going to have so much trouble stopping Alabama if they get on a roll. Texas A&M's offense it shows up good in some metrics, but the metrics I like with like effective field goal percentage and your true shooting percentages and things like that, they're really bad because they're so dependent on Stratford and Radford and Wade Taylor to just make hero plays and hit them from 50 feet or just split double teams to score. There's not a lot of help around them, and I think that's going to come back to burn them here. I absolutely love Bama to do this.
Alabama 14-9-1 against the spread. this season, there are not many teams that good against the spread. I know there's a handful, but you'll see those sort of numbers with totals. In fact, they'll be 17-7 to the over. That's not uncommon, and we'll talk about a couple teams like that later on in the show that have done, gone really extremely over this season. But 14-1 against spread's a pretty good number. The market's somehow just not really caught up to this Alabama team, just how good they are. I think according to Sideline, they've been kind of flirting with the fourth best team in the country. They'd kind of gotten up there, looked to be solidified, and then bad outing against Auburn kind of hurt them a little bit there, and maybe another one I can't remember, but Arizona then took over fourth. But they were in that fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever best team in the country, according to my model, and the market's treating them like they're more like the 12th or 13th best team in the country. And I know they've lost some games, but they played a tough schedule. They're a really good team. And interestingly enough, Alabama won this matchup last March in the SEC tournament. And that broke a skid of 5 straight A&M wins dating back before COVID. I thought that was really interesting because that just surprised me. I know that A&M's had a decent basketball team, but they were able to win some of those games on the road. But can you mention this A&M team just, they can get hot, and they beat Tennessee and they beat Kentucky. Those are two really good wins when they were able to score a bunch of points, and they might score a bunch of points here. The only difference to point out is, of course, both those games were at home. They lost at Vanderbilt. They lost by 11 at Auburn, and honestly, that 11 to Auburn, Alabama were both really good, pretty similar. When those two teams played each other both times, I think the model had those two teams next to each other in the ratings. So, that same sort of outcome seems like the average result. What we always preach here, of course, if you're new, is that we're projecting average results. We never know what's going to happen in any one individual game, but in general, this number should be a little bit higher. We think we win this one probably more in the mid 50% of the time. And so if we can win this around 55% of the time, it's going to make for a pretty profitable pick. Laying the 8 with Alabama is a B grade pick for us. And sticking in the afternoon, I believe this is going to be one of those peak hot games at 2:15, just because I feel like that's what they do with their timing. Wisconsin and Iowa. Jake, I'm really looking forward to this one. I don't know about you. This is one of my favorite plays of the day right here. A grade on the over, 152.5. We've been on these overs for both of these teams all season. We have not won every single one of them by any stretch of the imagination, but there's been, it's reminiscent of, and this is a little bit heresy maybe, but it's reminiscent of the Seattle Mariners, the Cleveland Guardians, 2 seasons ago in baseball, where we just kind of backed them, 5 days of the week, it seemed like. And we won a lot of money. We didn't every game, but we won a lot of money on them. That's the overs for these teams. We're not playing them every time, but playing most. We're winning more than we're losing by a good stretch. The market just hasn't seemed to caught on. This Wisconsin team is better on offense than defense. They do play slow, and you can see that on the screen there. And this is an interesting one because it's definitely a battle of paces. But even though Wisconsin plays slow, their offense is so efficient. They tend to make up for that by scoring a bunch of points. Their defense is not that good. Iowa at home tends to score a bunch of points. Jake, added bonus. This might get to overtime. We might have late fouls. A lot of ways we can get even extra bonus points that aren't even factored into the model, which projects about 161. This is, as usual with these teams, we think, underpriced. And this is one where if the market had been pricing both of these teams overs about 8 or so points higher, like we've been doing all season, you would actually be 50-50 on these teams with the over. But that's not the case. Both of them have hit way more overs than unders, and it's a trend we expect to continue. Again, don't know what's going to happen in one game. Anybody can get hot or cold, but in general, we think there should be points. At Wisconsin might go slow, but Iowa is going to try to speed them up, and Wisconsin is still going to score a lot of points on Iowa's terrible defense. Jake, tell us more.
Yeah, look, Iowa plays no defense. Iowa's offense is a lot better at home. That's going to absolutely keep this up. The fact that we've getting this in the low 150s is incredible to me. So I can't wait to jump all over this. Wisconsin had that 4 game sled there. They just come off of, and I know they beat Ohio State, and that's not really. I don't know that that's a slump buster or not.
Ohio State's been terrible. This is why they.
Yeah, but yeah, it's been their offense that left them. Their defense has still been playing relatively the same level in that little skid. It's just their offense left them. I think playing Iowa is a great way to find your offensive touchback because they're going to make sure you get enough possessions, and they don't play good enough defense to really make it hard on you to score. So I think we're going to get a ton of points that way. If Wisconsin's offense does anything like it did the first 3/4 of the year so far. This flies over because of the way Iowa likes to play at home, the way they shoot the ball. Both teams are decent shooting teams. Both are good for the free throw line and also do well inside the arc. I think this is going to have a ton of points, and I hate that if it's on Peacock. I absolutely hate that because I am a YouTube TV guy, and I love the little box setup that they have with the multi-view, and the fact that I can't get this one on there is going to frustrate me to death because you can't even use a back button anymore to get back to the right channels. Old man yelling at crowd, old man yelling at clouds kind of thing. But
right, yeah, I don't know if it is. I just think like that 2:15 time slot. I feel like has been the way that's gone. Yeah, Iowa has more possessions at home than on the road by a decent amount. Wisconsin plays pretty similar either way, but this game got to 155 in the first matchup in Wisconsin. And if you want to say, well, that was Wisconsin when they were scoring more points or whatever. I mean, the game before that Wisconsin played went under. And 2 games after that, they played Ohio State in a game that went under. So it's not like they were all over and then now they're all under. And in fact, 2 games ago against Rutgers, they went over, which seems impossible to do. And then even in those losses that they had, one of them went to overtime. We'll throw that out. That's not really fair. They still went over the closing number in the Purdue game, and they still went over in their last win before that skid against Michigan State. So they've still gone over in 4 of their last 6, and that would be 3 of their last 5 if you want to throw out the overtime game. But they've still not been a strong under team. Like you said, the offense has gone away, and they're still sometimes getting over. Iowa is definitely a team that wants to go over. These 2 teams are a combined 30 overs to 20 unders. And I mean, the 60% winning percentage is just insane to just have a blind backing system. Like I said, we've talked about this a lot this season. There are a handful of teams that the market just doesn't really care that they're going to be wrong 60% of the time on with overs or unders. It just kind of is what it is, and we're here to take advantage of it. I don't know if that'll last in the next year. I don't know if it'll last until tomorrow, but that's why we have the model to tell us, is this still something the market is missing on? And the answer for us is yes. We still think on average this gets into the upper 150s or the lower 160s, depending on exactly how it plays out. Over 152.5 A grade, one of my favorite personal picks of the day. Doesn't mean put 9 units on it, right, people? We still want to be responsible because anything can happen in sports, especially with college kids. We just maybe put an extra half unit on it, a little extra on it, because we tend to like this one. And a very similar setup in the night game with Kentucky and Auburn. Before we get to that, that's what you get on Dub Club right there. Again, here's the screenshot of all the pictures. I don't know what else there's to say about it. I've been preaching Dub Club all season. It's where you get all the plays of the day, which have been doing really well all season long. I don't know what else to say about it. If you want $5 off your first month, there's a QR code to do it. The sign up link in the show description. I don't know. I'm a terrible salesperson. That'll take us to the last game of the night here, Kentucky and Auburn. And kind of like I said, same story here. Numbers a little bit higher. Model thinks it should go a little bit higher. I mean, Kentucky overs are always fun to play. They haven't gone over every single game. And when they go under, they don't even come close. But otherwise, when they go over, they don't really go close either. They just kind of fly over the number as well. So Kentucky could have one of those random games that they've seemed to play where it's like, 70 to 65. But in general, this sets up to be a game where somebody's going to get to 90 points. I don't really know who it is. Obviously, it's more likely to be Auburn than Kentucky, but sports are weird. And Kentucky winning this game wouldn't surprise me because nothing should surprise you with this Kentucky team. Whether they score 90 points and win, 100 points and win, or they give up 110. Any of that's on the table with this team and how good their offense is, how bad their defense is, and just the random nature of 18-year-olds playing basketball. Jake, model thinks around 170 for this one. It's a big number, really no rush because I don't think this number is going to go up that much from here. But the Kentucky, when they played Florida a few weeks ago, the market actually did price it at 171. I believe the model said about 171. And I think in regulation, it landed like right at 171. It went over in overtime. But all 3 numbers between the market, the model, and the actual regulation result were all pretty dang close. That's the only time that I can recall this season where the markets actually said, hey, this Kentucky game can definitely get to the 170s. But they've gotten to the 170s a ton of times, and the market just doesn't seem to care. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of game, I don't understand why we're getting it where we're getting it at because either one of these teams is liable to put up 100 on the other one. Either way, like Kentucky has put up huge numbers against really good defenses because their offense is incredible. At the same time, they play next to no defense, and
They gave up
Auburn is
80
going to.
something. They give up some 80 something to Texas A&M in regulation, which
Mhm.
seems impossible to do. Like, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible how bad their defense is, and Auburn is a very good offensively talented team. They just put up 101 on South Carolina, who has been probably the best defensive team in the SEC,
Mhm.
and they just absolutely had their way with them. Janai Broom is going to have a field day because Kentucky's got nobody that can handle him inside, and they've got more size. All their guys are taller than him, but he is just a tough guy and will makes great moves. Shoots the ball from deep. You have to guard him all over the court. It's going to be a rough day for Kentucky trying to figure out how to guard him. All the guard play is going to be. This is going to be a fabulous game because the guard play is going to be top tier. You've got a lot of NBA talent on this floor, and there's going to be up and down. The pace is going to be incredible, and there's going to be a ton of points.
This Auburn team is the obvious concern. Kentucky's 18-6 to the over. I mean, just in general, the market has been massively off on Kentucky overs. We've played almost all of those. Again, haven't won all of them. That's not the point. We're never going all in on a single game. We're never 20 times whale whatever nonsense, right? We're just saying, hey, in general, if we're slow and steady trying to build our bankroll, Kentucky overs are generally a good way to go. We've been preaching that all season. Again, so the concern being Auburn. Do you want to just point out a couple, because we don't have to talk about Kentucky. Do you want to point out a couple things with Auburn? Number one, they played Baylor first game of the season, and the way Baylor was playing in non-conference, I think profile is very similar to Kentucky. That game got to 170 points. They played USC in non-conference, and the way USC was playing at that time, not quite lately, but profiles kind of similar to what Kentucky is. That game got to 166 points, and then in conference, Auburn has had some very low-scoring games. Texas A&M, early on in the conference slate, 66-55. Something like that is incredible. Mississippi State, they played a game that was in the 60s to 50s. Those teams are a little bit different. When you look at LSU, who can get up there, that game got up to like 170 points. They played one of the two games with Alabama, of course, got to 180. They just put up 101 against South Carolina. They played one game against Alabama that only got to 154, and that would, of course, lose at this number. And they played a game against Florida that would have gone way under this number as well. So they have gone under against some of these fast teams, but they've gone over.
Most of those games that are going under are away, where their offense just doesn't seem to travel. At
That's
home
what I was going to
is
say.
where Auburn comes through.
That's what I was going to say. The Alabama game that went under was on the road. The game at home went over. The Florida game, because Florida's another team that was pretty high scoring, that was on the road as well. So that's the difference. The last two times they were at home against South Carolina and Alabama, two pretty decent teams, they've put up a combined 200 points. The home game before that, they put up 81. The home game before that, they put up 82. The home game before that, they put up 93. So Kentucky, I don't think is going to stand in their way. And the pace that Kentucky plays with, 100 is pretty reasonable for Auburn to get to. I'm not saying they do, but nobody should be surprised if that's the way, that this game plays out. But, reasonably getting into the upper 80s or 90s is not inconceivable for Auburn or even Kentucky. Like we said, they've got the possibility of doing it too. Now their offense can completely disappear. They can miss a bunch of layups. So anything can happen, of course, in one game, but in general, with the pace that Kentucky plays with their offense and defensive mix, they've been a massive over team. Auburn at home, we like them in this matchup to go over this number. Again, just like some of these other teams, just think it's a little bit too short. We do have an underplay of the day. That's over on Dub Club. If you're interested in some under bets, we've got you covered there as well. Got a dog, got a favorite, got a little bit of everything for you. And if you're with us on Dub Club, you have the link to watch the extended cut. You'll be with us after the music, and we'll talk more college basketball. Before we get to that, Jake, parting words for the viewer before we head to the weekend.
Now's the time to jump on the Dub Club. You're going to get the beginning of baseball, all of March Madness, and as new things come out, like the hockey model, you get that before anybody really knows about it. And I'm sure there's other things in the works that be out there. You're even getting I think I just saw a NASCAR channel pick up. I didn't even know people could gamble on that, but
you can.
I'm just going to follow people's leads.
Hey, Cousin Jared's a big NASCAR guy. So, we got a little bit of everything on the Discord, people helping people out. Always, it's a great community there. Always looking out for each other with boosts and what people are looking to do and how they're trying to capitalize. Always try to make sure we're getting some smart plays. Got some people who do some live betting, all sorts of goodies over there on Discord, which you can get through Dub Club. That sign up link in the show description, that will get you $5 off your first month. Check it out if you haven't. And if you're with us over there, we will see you after the music.